Hello. I'm not showing my face because I would prefer to stay alive. I'm North Korean. I left, and I need to talk about something that people in the West get completely wrong about Kim Jong Un. You think he's a joke. You've seen the memes, the haircut, the missiles, the threats, the ridiculous propaganda videos. You laugh at him, and I understand why. From where you stand, he looks absurd. But that's the problem. When you laugh, you miss what's actually happening. You miss how the system works, and you miss why it's still standing. Let me explain something. Kim Jong Un is not stupid. That's the first thing people get wrong. When Westerners see the parades and the nuclear tests and the wild threats, they think it's all madness. They think he's irrational, a cartoon villain. But inside North Korea, none of it feels irrational. It feels calculated. Because it is. Here's what people don't understand. The regime doesn't survive because of force alone. It survives because of something else. Something quieter. It survives because it has convinced most people that there is no alternative. Not that the system is good. Not that Kim Jong Un is a god. But that anything else would be worse. That's the trick. You grow up learning that the outside world wants to destroy you. Not metaphorically, literally. You're taught that Americans are waiting for the chance to invade, that South Korea is a puppet state, that China tolerates you but doesn't care, that the world sees you as expendable. And then you look around and you see sanctions, you see isolation, you see how no one helps. And part of you starts to believe it, not because you're brainwashed, but because the evidence keeps piling up. I remember this moment. I was maybe 14. There was a power outage. Nothing unusual. It happened all the time. We were sitting in the dark and my father said something. He said the Americans had sabotaged the grid. I asked how he knew. He just looked at me. Not angry, not defensive, just tired. He said, who else would it be? And I didn't have an answer. Because when your power never works, and your economy barely functions, and the rest of the world treats you like a threat, it becomes easy to believe that maybe they really are the enemy. Maybe the system is bad, but maybe the alternative is annihilation. That's how it works. The regime doesn't need you to love it. It just needs you to fear what comes next. And Kim Jong Un understands that. He's not performing for us. He's performing for you. Every missile test, every dramatic threat, every piece of bizarre propaganda is designed to keep the West talking about North Korea as a problem, as a danger, as something that must be contained. And every time the West responds with sanctions, with isolation, with ridicule, it confirms the narrative. It tells every North Korean that yes, the world is against you. Yes, your leader is the only thing standing between you and destruction. People ask me if North Koreans really believe the propaganda. The answer is complicated. Most people don't believe the extreme stuff. They don't think Kim Jong Un doesn't use the bathroom or that he learned to drive at age 3. But they believe the parts that matter. They believe the country is surrounded. They believe the West wants regime change. They believe that if the system falls, chaos comes next. And that belief is enough. Let me talk about something else. Control. In the West, you imagine control in North Korea as constant surveillance, as soldiers on every corner, as violence always one step away. And yes, those things exist. But most days aren't like that. Most days are just gray. You go to work, you go to your assigned housing, you attend the mandatory meetings, you say the things you're supposed to say, not because someone is holding a gun to your head in that moment, but because you've learned that staying safe means staying invisible. You've learned that the system doesn't crush you suddenly, it erodes you slowly, and Kim Jong Un didn't invent that system, he inherited it. But he's adapted it, made it more efficient, more psychological. There's this thing that happens. You start to police yourself. You don't need someone watching because you've internalized the rules. You know what you can't say. You know what you can't ask. You know which friends might report you and which ones won't. And that knowledge becomes a kind of cage you carry with you. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. It's just exhausting. And it works. Because exhausted people don't rebel. They survive. Here's another thing people misunderstand. Kim Jong Un has changed things, not in the way you'd hope, but in real ways. He's allowed more markets, more private commerce, more access to foreign goods if you have money. He's created a small class of people who benefit from the system. People who have smartphones, who watch smuggled TV shows, who eat at new restaurants in Pyongyang. And those people become invested in stability. They don't love Kim Jong Un, but they don't want chaos either. Because chaos means losing what little they have. That's not stupidity. That's survival. When you see Kim Jong Un on television threatening nuclear war, you think he's reckless. But inside North Korea, those threats feel like insurance. They feel like the only reason the country hasn't been invaded yet. People don't support the nuclear program because they want war. They support it because they think it's the only thing keeping them alive. And Kim Jong Un reinforces that belief constantly. Every test is framed as self-defense. Every sanction is framed as aggression. And in that framing, he's not the villain. He's the protector. I'm not defending him. I need to be clear about that. The system is brutal. People die in camps. People starve. Families are punished for one person's mistake. I've seen it. I've lost people to it. But if you want to understand why the regime survives, you have to stop seeing Kim Jong Un as a madman. You have to see him as a strategic actor using every tool he has to maintain power. And one of those tools is you, your outrage, your sanctions, your ridicule, because all of it fits the narrative that keeps him in place. And that's what people don't see. When you laugh at Kim Jong Un, you're not weakening him. You're reinforcing the story he tells his people, that the world doesn't take them seriously, that the world sees them as a joke, that their only option is to close ranks and trust the system. And in that sense, he's not losing. He's winning. I left because I couldn't live like that anymore. But most people can't leave. They stay. They adapt. They survive. And Kim Jong Un stays in power. Not because he's loved, not because he's feared in every moment, but because he's convinced enough people that there's no other way. And until the West understands that, until you stop seeing him as a punchline and start seeing him as a calculating authoritarian who uses your contempt as a weapon, nothing will change. That's all. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my thoughts. Feel free to join my community below, where I will share things that aren't allowed here.